Emmanuel here. We're talking about economics. I've got questions, trying to learn. Now, China Square is the name of a retailer that has opened its doors to Kenyans in Nairobi, Kenya. Now, the store is extremely popular owing to the variety of goods that they supply, the low price of these goods, and I guess the quality. Look, quality, or rather utility, of goods and services is subjective to the economic actor in question, right? It's a subjective choice. They decide what they like to consume and produce, or rather, they decide what they like to consume out of what is available in the market. Now, there was controversy surrounding this store. Why? They were making a lot of money, and some traders thought that, look, they shouldn't be allowed to sell at prices that are so low that a they knock us out of the market, us as traders. Look, they're within their right to express themselves as they wish. What we will try to do is to understand the implications of their claims and to also understand what the conditions were that led to these claims in the first place. Now, there we could see that there is a political tinderbox, right, created by global economic headwinds. There is the issues, for example, of unemployment, rising inflation, a depreciating currency, trade deficit, and a public debt position that has moved the government to raise taxes in order to service these debts adequately, right? Now, what is the problem? Well, these problems such that there are conditions that are not necessarily unique to Kenya, but conditions that repeat themselves across the world and across time. So they are not limited in geographical area or in the continuum of time, right? It happens. It happens that you find yourself in such a situation where foreign traders are doing really well, and they're actually adding to the consumer surplus of consumers in a specific domestic market, and not everyone has good things to say about it, right? It is not an abnormal occurrence. It is something that is common in history. What is the usual response? Well, look, let's look at the market for private goods. In the market for private goods, if you have traders that are offering goods at very cheap prices, this is actually good for the consumers, so those on the supply side. And I guess you could say good for those traders who can actually offer these goods, these cheap goods. It's not so beneficial towards the consumer, the traders who might find that they were selling goods perhaps of an inferior quality or of a higher price, and so they have begun, and so they find themselves losing market. Right now, what does this mean? Well, it means that these traders will have some incentive to look for a way to hold on to their producer surplus. In a free market, they will just find that they have to reorganize perhaps their business models and do something different, perhaps, or do more of the same but in an improved manner, in such a manner that perhaps they might get some of their old customers back. Another option is to go into the market for public goods and for example, arrange for rents for yourselves in some way, right? What happened in Kenya's case? Well, in Kenya's case, these traders actually went out and they have been trying to push the government to restrict the entry of other Chinese traders, they said, and the operations of this Chinese trader on the grounds that the the entry of these participants, these traders, these entrepreneurs, will actually reduce their incomes. Fine, this may be true, but they want to turn policy government to change the policy of government to favor them. And what is not being said explicitly is that this would be at the cost of the consumer, who will have to pay more for goods. Now, these are the incentives of these actors. If they have, if they're well organized, as the traders were, for example, the traders are small in number, and the fact that they're small in number gives them the incentive to, because if they can redistribute the income, then they will actually be able to go home with more spoils. And so the incentives are effectively created, or rather the conditions emerge to incentivize them to push for policy that is in their favor, right? That is policy that restricts the entry of foreign entrepreneurs. Now, what is the effect? Well, this is the point that should be taken. Such occurrences will cause, or rather they create the incentives for these actors to act in the way they do. So it happens elsewhere in the world that the say the economic environment is perhaps quite not conducive to employment, say, and incomes aren't rising. So you're looking for ways to kind of stretch your dollar, so to speak. Someone comes in, they provide cheap goods, so your dollar is effectively stretched. Hey, you like it. But other suppliers who are competing against this particular supplier or producer may not particularly like it. And so they are incentivized to, because they will be very well organized, to commandeer state policy in their favor. State actors might be incentivized to act in their favor if they feel beholden to them, for example. Now, these are the incentives that were at work here in the China Square controversy, which perhaps maybe we haven't seen the end of, but all this to say that it's not new, it's not unique to Kenya. Idi Amin, for example, took to expelling all Asians from Uganda on similar grounds. And look, the fact that Kenya's debt profile, bilateral debt profile, has an important Chinese component means that China lends itself easily to domestic controversy. Anything that China does could be scrutinized in such a circumstance or such a set of conditions. And that's what happened. Now, yeah. That means these are outcomes that we could reasonably expect. Similar to, again, perhaps you could cite Mussolini or the Nazis, taking property away from the Jews, taking property away from groups or people that they think are too successful, or they don't have a positive view about what it is they're up to for whatever reason. We should be vigilant. We should understand these conditions and be vigilant about policy directions that would be detrimental to the whole, and policy decisions that claim that they're covering everyone, but they're actually not, that they're actually favoring, say, in this case, the suppliers, not even the producers represented in this story. Thank you.